transmission. Radio Rebellion.
Whoops, and the music cut up short. Well, that's fine. This is Welcome to the Rebellion, another episode of Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. If you're a fan of the show, you know this happens from time to time. I tried making some last minute adjustment, and unfortunately, I cut off our intro music, but that's fine. You guys have heard it before, so there's no royalties involved with it. But we are grateful for our friend that made that song for us. So, yay, guys! Welcome to another episode on this fabulous Saturday. Another weekend. It's been a week. You know, we don't touch too much about real world issues here, but it's been a week and we'll just leave it at that for now. We're going to have a fun show tonight. We're going to have a great show. As back again with a great guest today. It's been a couple of weeks since we have someone on, and today it's going to be a good one. It's a little lack of sleep, but that's fine. It's going to make for a great show, great conversations, and thank you guys as always. If you're watching this on the live chat, then thank you. Don't forget to hit that like, that thumbs up button. I always forget to tell you guys till the end. If you're not subscribed, go ahead, hit that subscribe. I'll wait. All right, hopefully you did it already because it's pretty quickly to hit that subscribe. And if you're watching this later on in the replay, just leave a comment below about anything, how I always mess up the intros, about the topics we're talking about. It doesn't matter. Just leave us a comment. And if you're listening to this later on the audio podcast, make sure to leave us a rate, review, and subscribe to it also so you don't miss anything. So how have you guys been? Like I said, it's been a week, but it's always a fun week when you get to add to your Star Wars collection. I just got this yesterday. It's a Second Sister Inquisitor. There you go. I just love the design of the Inquisitors. It's one of my favorite dark side designs at the moment. I'll be honest, I haven't played Jedi Fallen Order. Like I've said before, I'm not a gamer anymore, unfortunately, but I do like the design. So I got it for about $5 on Amazon. So if you like it, you don't have it, go ahead and pick it up. All right, enough about me. Like I said, we have a great guest today, and let's bring him up from the Pink Milk Podcast, the one, the only Bryan. Hey, Bryan, how are you doing today?
Hello. I have been up since 11 p.m. I'm very excited, and I couldn't sleep, and I've been here waiting in front of the screen.
All right. Sorry to keep you waiting so long.
No, I'm super stoked.
All right. Yeah, we're talking a little bit off air about how it's life. It happens. You have a plan, and then it gets thrown off course, unfortunately, once in a while, but it happens. So how you been enjoying?
It happens.
Busy with your podcast? You're doing some new shows you recorded earlier today also. How's everything going over there?
I did. I am tickled, I have to be honest. We were planning on doing a Mandalorian rewatch, and when that show first started, I felt that it was a very queer-coded show, and I have an inability to see that show any other way. This is the way. And so I decided to put together a queer roundtable, and it was one of the great things that Twitter does. I kind of sent a tweet out and got a whole lot of people on, and honestly, I am so incredibly grateful to them. They have brought so much to the podcast, and it's really changed. I feel I've grown not only as a podcaster, but as a person through all this, it's really, really awesome.
Yeah.
The last episode we had like 9 people.
Oh wow!
So I learned some editing last week.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up later, but since you brought it up, let's start with it. So one of the things I love about Star Wars is that exact thing that you said, that we all see it from different eyes and different points of view. And for our second season here on Radio Rebellion, I've been having more guests. I'm trying to expand not only for my fans, but also myself, people with different experiences, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and things of that nature. And we all see it from a different point of view. So when you sent out that tweet, I remember seeing it. and then I guess like a week or two later, your first episode came out, which I listened to it a while back. It's a great, and like I said, I didn't see it that way, and I can't say that I will continue to see it the way that you guys saw it, but it gave me another perspective of how people relate to Star Wars. So I wanted to ask you, and you kind of answered it already, but was this something since the series started, you saw it that way, or was it later just thinking about it that all those things came into your mind?
Honestly, the minute it started,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit on our first episode. In our culture, I'm LGBTQ plus. My husband is on the podcast with me, so it makes it pretty obvious that we're gay dudes pretty quick. The minute he walks into the bar, just the way he came in and made his entrance, I think a lot of us in our community, not everybody, but a lot, it was certainly true for me. That's the first place we kind of go to be ourselves. Nightclubs and bars, especially, I'm a little bit older, so I was coming out in the 90s. It was a different time, but it's the place that we could go to and kind of be safe. Sure. And he's very much himself in that scene. And then we see as he leaves, all of a sudden he starts building the walls around him about the droids, and we really see what he's hiding, and he wasn't hiding as much then. So everything about that show, though, to this, that's just how I see it very much.
So are you doing your podcast, I guess your roundtables, you have so many people in there, one per each episode? You think you're doing 8 of these covering each episode, or how are you going on about it?
Well, we planned on doing 2 episodes, a series of 4 roundtables. So we're going to do 2 chapters per episode. The first one, I can ramble as it is already, so you get more people in there. And it was we weren't anticipating the trailer to drop, so that ended up taking a good chunk of conversation. So the first episode, which is episode 38 of the podcast, we discuss chapter 1 and just kind of get to know everybody. Then the second one, we do chapters 2 and 3. And then just this morning, we recorded chapters 4, 5, and 6. So that'll be out on Wednesday. Okay. Knock on wood.
Yeah. And I think now that you mentioned episode 38, I think this is our 38th episode of our podcast. So
hey, we're on the same wavelength there. That's awesome.
Parents with kids similar ages, not sleeping. I did get a little bit more sleep than you last. So
it was meant to be, my friend.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. But speaking of parenting, I think you, in that first episode that I listened about The Mandalorian, you were talking about parenting in this digital age. And my kids are doing the same digital school, like they call it over here. And we're 5 weeks into it. And those first 2 weeks, no one knew what was going on. Parents, kids, teachers. It's the same over there, I'm guessing. It's just throw it up and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's twofold. Our youngest was in kindergarten, and he had just switched to full day kindergarten like a month and a half before everything went down. And then he informed, hey, Mr. Reese, just before he went came the online schooling, and yeah, he was legitimately afraid of the camera. He did not understand how they were in and could see him in his house. So I want to say that the end of kindergarten, he just didn't even go to the computer. But now they're getting experience with computers at a much younger age, and that's what they're going to have to know. So there's been some good to it. It's definitely hard though. It's definitely tough.
I know. It's my wife does most of it. She's been lucky enough that since all of this started, her work let her work from home. So it's great, but at the same time, she's wearing 4 hats at the time, dealing with work stuff and with 2 kids doing digital school at the same time. And it's like you're saying, especially those weeks, no one knows what's going on. And then my kids, at least they learn a little bit quicker, because last year, I guess, over here around March when all this started, we were home still working from home. So they saw us on Zoom a lot. So they learned a little bit about it. So my son knows when to mute himself and all that, but then he's in second grade. Kids don't know, so it's everyone talking. And my kids, why
Yeah.
don't they just mute themselves? And then the teacher, so and so, that's distracting. I can hear someone on the phone, and then people walking. It's like, oh man. So yeah, it's a pain. So my hats off to you, my wife, everyone that's doing this, and especially the teachers, because some of them are doing digital plus in-person learning at
Yep.
the same time, and I don't know how they do it. It's
We start that next week.
yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
It'll be a whole new venture.
Yes. Good luck. So talking about your
Thank you.
podcast, how I love when you guys start your podcast. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's basically podcast for those what is it that enjoy Star Wars and those forced to listen to it. So
Yes.
how did you convince your husband Tom to be on a podcast? Because he's, I'm guessing, as casual a fan as we call a casual fan. How did
Yes.
all this come about?
So yeah, someone called him a casual fan at best, and it's stuck. It's really funny. I mean, Tom's wonderful. I am like the luckiest person in the world. I found my person, and he's really, really great.
Mhm.
It didn't take long. I've shared the story once or twice, but when we first met, he asked me something, whatever, first date questions. What's interesting about you? And I said, I was in my 20s at the time, and I said, I live my life based on the 3 S's. And he's like, what? I said, South Park, Sex and the City, and Star Wars. And he was like, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard, and probably is. But, I think you can go to any one of those things and find so many answers to life when things come up.
Sure.
And he had told me that he hadn't even seen the prequels, all of them yet. I think he'd seen episode 1. And so I was like, okay, well, you got to get on that. And then we went on our second date like a week later, and he had actually watched episode 2 and 3. I was like,
a good sign.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, for someone we didn't know each other, I was like, it was really, really impressed. And so I knew he was really great anyways. Anyways, that was 13 years ago. So I had been wanting to do a podcast for a really, really long time.
Mhm.
And Tom and I, years ago, almost opened up a business together. We were going to open up a coffee shop, actually.
Mhm.
And so we had done a little bit of work together, and then we hadn't worked together in a long time, but we kind of missed that dynamic. And we think we're funny. And then so I somehow just convinced him to do it. We got married. And we fought real hard, so I just pulled the wedding ring thing. I said, well, you have to.
Yeah.
And then luckily, a few months later, The Mandalorian started, and I have spoken. So I said, you're gonna come on the podcast.
Here's the way. Yeah. That's a great story. And it's funny. I've met a few people that doing podcasting have not similar stories, but one of them is the really uber fan of Star Wars, and the other one either just watches the movies or a certain aspect of it. But that's what makes the show so entertaining. It's just that back and forth. And you guys have it, of course, with that personal relationship that you guys have, but it shows through not the screen, but through the audio. Listen to you guys on the podcast. I've listened to a couple, and it's always, I love the way that you guys start. Just the first 5 or 10 minutes talking and introducing the show is a great way to get your personalities through. And I'm happy you guys found a way to do it through Star Wars podcasting and not something else that was maybe down the way. But how did Pink Milk start? Where did the name come from? Do you guys have different names? Because I think before you had Pink Milk House or something like that, at least on Twitter, and then change it. How that the name come out?
Yeah. So I love Star Wars, obviously, but I'm also like a really, really big music fan. And there's a band called Hercules and Love Affair, and one of their songs, they're a queer band, and one of their songs is called My House. And it's just a song about, regardless of whatever is going on outside, this is my house and it's in order, and I'm going to do things my way. And so it's really resonated with me. And then I had to be a fancy gay and spell house Haus. But we changed it because it was just really confusing. So that was a bad marketing call on my end. But when we started the show, we really did start it with the intention of, for super fans and those who are forced to listen, thinking that would be the part that kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really more about representation. And like you said, we talk a lot about our personal life in there, and it's almost become, the podcast has kind of taken a life of its own.
Sure.
And at the time, I listened to lots of podcasts and YouTubes and stuff like that because Star Wars was always just kind of my thing by myself. And so that was how I found things, but I had never heard a person from my community speaking about it. And so I was like, I really want to do that. In my 30s, I was an independent comic maker. So I created a couple series of comics, and I was really knee deep in the local scene, but I didn't want to be a gay comic creator. So I really kind of hid it. And I know as the years went on with that, I kind of regretted that I did that. And I was just like, I love Star Wars, and I haven't heard my voice. I haven't heard anyone talking about seeing it the way I see it. And there's no way I'm the only one that does. Mm-hmm. So we knew that was going to be a part of the podcast. And then we have children that we've adopted through the foster system, which we talk a lot about on the show too. And I wanted to make sure that we had the kids, because that's another layer of our community that isn't spotlighted very often.
Yeah.
And a show about children who find families. Star Wars learned to speak to me on a whole another level once my kids came. And so that's kind of what the podcast turned into. It was, the force to listen is there, and it's funny and it's great and it's very, very true. I think Tom brings a lot to the show, because people like us, we talk about it all day long, but Tom comes like, no, I really liked it. And he loves learning about it.
Oh.
And so that really, really works. But the show's become really kind of about an LGBTQ lens through it, which has been really awesome.
Yeah. Did you, and I think yes, because you said it already, but was it always part of the idea to have that front and center? Because one thing it's saying, LGBTQ in that community, but we're not going to make it a central focus on the show. But it's out there, your sign says gay in Star Wars. So you don't hide it, like you said. Was that always the plan? We'll just put it out there and deal with it if you don't like it or whatever.
Yeah, it was never. I wish I was that smart to say I wanted it front and center and to lead it that way. I certainly thought it was going to be a part of it, but I really didn't think it was. But in June, so June is Pride Month, and a lot of things changed. We started our podcast. We're coming up to a year, so we started it in November, and then March came. And I think everybody stopped listening to podcasts because we're all in panic. And so we were just kind of, we had never done anything like this before. I think like a lot of podcasts, you just kind of you stumble your way through the beginning. And in June, we had a few queer guests come on from different places. And I started to learn that some of them had podcasts and all that at that time. But it was... who are now my friends, Matt and Sean from Blue Bantha Milk Co., another YouTube channel, asked us to be on to celebrate Pride Month and talk about representation. And it was really that moment that kind of changed everything. I was like, oh my God, here are two straight dudes who live on the other side of the world, and they're asking us what it's like to see Star Wars. And so it just changed everything. It was like, okay, I thought maybe we'd have, a couple dozen people from our community listen, and that was about it. But I think at that moment I realized, there's more people listening, and they're listening specifically because they want to hear from a different perspective. People like you, like what you just said you're trying to do with your second season. And I think it made me realize that there was something bigger going on. I was really proud at that moment. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's Star Wars podcasters who you throw a stone, you hit 27. But trying to find that's starting a podcast, that's what you look for. What's the hook to get people involved in it that can go 20 other podcasts, and then you find your way just being true to yourself. and then finding that audience behind it, not just people, gay people, anything, just everyone wants to listen to different voices. Because I've said here before, I'm the reason, not the reason why I like talking with self-minded people about Star Wars. And I don't mean people that think like me, because then there's no reason to have it. What I mean by that is people that see the positive on it. We can criticize it, but not just go the negative route like some people. So that's what when I say self-minded. But talking to you just for a few minutes, and the other people I've had before, Geeky Waffle being from Asian descent, an Indian descent, bringing a totally different perspective to it, that opened up my eyes about it. Lauren and Andrea from Galactic Podcast also see from a different point of view. Force of Light Entertainment from their point of view. It opens up my eyes to different ways of seeing Star Wars, which then opens up the conversation. But you did bring up a few minutes ago saying when we stumbled through our first few episodes. And yes, that always happens. So what have you learned in this first year of the podcast that you wish you knew before when you started back in November of last year?
I think I love Tom with all my heart, obviously, but he is the star. We joke he waits in the green room until we're ready to go.
Yeah.
So literally all of it is me, and I have a full-time job, which is I'm in the creative field too, so sometimes I am just like creatively tapped out when it comes. I think I wish I would have possibly not tried to take everything on. Like, I made our own music, I did everything. I do all of our graphic design stuff. And I think going back, none of that stuff really matters at the beginning. I wish I would have spent more time learning how to record. Like, our first guest that we had on, I didn't even think about putting in earbuds for the computer. So I had like an echo the entire way through. And like, it was just embarrassing. And at the time, of course, it was the one that got the most listens. I was like, oh my God.
I think my first one is still like my second or third most, at least on the podcast, is one of those. And same thing for me, it was when I did the audio podcast. If I messed up or stumbled, I would stop right there and then start from the beginning. So I just wasted 20 minutes. No, I said that word too many times. So there was a 5-second silence spot. No, stop. Let's start again. It took me 2 hours for a 40-minute episode. Like, episode 6 or 7, I said, it doesn't matter. No one has complained about it. At that point, the 5 people listening to it didn't say anything. Let's just go with it. They just want to hear the conversation. It doesn't have to be perfect. And it's been working out since then. And speaking, we just mentioned this, guys, a few minutes ago. So we have Michelle from Force of Light Entertainment. How are you doing, Michelle? Thanks for taking the time today and joining me and Bryan talking here. He's still awake, still trying to, hopefully that's coffee or pink milk, who knows, but as long as he stays awake for the next 20 minutes.
I'm doing well. I'm excited.
So a question I ask all my guests: have you ever received a weird Star Wars gift or given a weird Star Wars gift to Tom or anyone? Usually when people know you're a huge Star Wars fan, or told you something that I know I'm into Star Wars. I know there's a movie coming in 2 years. You don't need to tell me.
Yeah. Not with Tom. Tom knows. I don't know. And even like, so my career, my day job, I work for a independent record store chain. So record store chains these days are very pop culture driven too. So even at work, I work with like-minded people. I mean, I'm still the Star Wars guy. I'm trying to think. No, I wish I did, because I'm sure there would have been. I'm sure. What about you?
I said before, one of the weirdest co-worker about 5 years ago, before went around the Phantom. I just watched Phantom Menace a few weeks ago. The Force Awakens came out. They went on a 3-week trip through Europe. And I brought you something. Oh, great. I haven't been to Europe. Let's see what you brought me. And I don't have it here with me. It's a Hungarian Force Awakens pitch storybook that's missing about. It goes to right to when General Hux is in Starkiller Base saying his speech, and I think it destroys the planet, and then it ends there. And I don't know. So I don't speak Hungarian. I can't read it. It has some mask on the back, some Chewbacca mask, some Rey mask, and that's the weirdest one I've gotten. One of my
That's
bosses
awesome.
gave me made me an honorary member of the Jedi Knight Church, and I have officially a Jedi Knight. So it's weird stuff like that, but I appreciate it. But it's yay, thank you.
No, that's awesome. I'm now thinking about it. I did get from a boss a long time ago for a Christmas gift. They got me it's some independent toy guy made a Wilrow Hood ice cream truck.
Yeah,
So I have like a little Matchbox car
yeah, that's
painted
awesome.
with yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty great.
So you mentioned that Star Wars has been in your life as far as you can remember, more or less. But what's your Star Wars story? We all have a Star Wars story, but what's yours? Or when did you really got into Star Wars?
So, I mean, honestly, it's just always been there. I really related to the Ewoks, I think. Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
I think it's the most Star Wars-y movie of all of Star Wars, in my opinion. But I'm not a very tall guy, and I was always super, super, super skinny.
Mhm.
And so I used to get picked on a lot and all that, like every kid does. But I think I really related to the Ewoks when I was little because here they were, these cute, cuddly things. But when it came time to defend themselves, they really did, and like they won the war. Like to this day, it's if it wasn't for Leia's single act of kindness, the rebellion probably wouldn't have won. And it's thanks to the Ewoks. And so I think at a really young age, I just really responded to that aspect of it. I was adopted by my father, so I think Luke being raised by parents that were not his biological parents was like a big part. I don't know. I use Star Wars to just figure things out. That's something I've learned in the podcast. I think is all the different kinds of Star Wars fans
Yeah.
that are out there. Like I'm really interested in the emotional connections to Star Wars and like people's like I'm not great at knowing every alien when I see I can I'm not that person. Especially now. It's still Walrus Man and Hammerhead and all that to me. But those really deep personal levels, which is why I love, like you said, going to find different podcasts and YouTube channels and to be able to hear that stuff. It's really awesome.
Was that always the way you saw Star Wars or connected to it with those personal levels, or has it changed throughout time? Before, for me, it was lightsabers and the Sith
Yeah.
versus the Jedi. And of course, there's the deep meaning behind it. But then, as we talked a little bit before, once you become a parent, boom, you see everything a different way. And then I start seeing more of those personal connections, and everything has to deal with a parent and their child in Star Wars, which is basically all of it. I just become completely emotional, and that's the part that really drives me to it. Apart from the Force side, which is story-wise, the Force is what really interests me. But
Yeah.
chronologically, going from Phantom Menace, and I've said it here before, it's me letting go of Anakin just to have a better life. As a parent, I say, I don't know if I can do that. Even if I know he's going to have a better life, I can just let my son or my daughter just go. With, at that point, a stranger, yes, it's a better life, but it's a part of you. So that scene, say what you want about Phantom Menace, that to me takes a completely different meaning. Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, that battle at the end, the reason Battle of the Heroes is my favorite lightsaber battle is what it means for two people that grew up together, and that emotional connection, what gets to me. And then it keeps going on with all the other movies, all the way to Rise of Skywalker, Ben Solo's redemption with Han Solo, which I said before, I didn't want Kylo Ren to be redeemed. I now it's just going back the same thing. But the way they did it, that's my favorite part of that whole movie. It's just that 2 minute scene between the both of them. I'm starting a little bit early with Leia making the sacrifice. But that parental connection, it's what I see completely different 15 years ago. I might have a completely different view of Star Wars to what I'm seeing now. So similar to that, as you grow older, of course, you see it a little bit different, but becoming a parent also made you see it a different way.
I mean, 1000%. I mean, that scene with Shmi Skywalker was always really heavy, anyways. But now, again, like I said, we adopted our children through the foster system, so nothing good nothing good in their life brought them to us. And I understand that sever from a biological parent in a way that I don't think I could have understood it before. Mm-hmm. I've talked about Ahsoka Tano is my favorite character, and the scene at the end of her story, well, until I guess this new season, but when she left the Jedi Order resonates with me so much. It literally changed me as a person. It is like forever my favorite part of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And that was always really personal. And that's been almost a decade since that episode's been out, pushing that. But now I look at it from my kids' perspectives and everything they had to like walk away from. And it's taken this new meaning to that. Which is awesome. And I don't know, like Rey Skywalker, I've talked about that. Her taking that last name has meant a lot. All of it's been really interesting. My youngest is a super fan. So it's funny. I was just talking about this today when we were recording our show, actually, like when we were growing up, or me, the prequels were not around, and Star Wars is pretty easy. The Jedi were the good guys and the Empire were the bad guys. Yeah. And the genius that is George Lucas, the Jedi aren't so great anymore. And so it's so hard to like try to explain to a little, when he was 4, it was really hard. He's 6 now, but like to explain why the Jedi still make bad decisions, but they're good guys. It's become, which is brilliant. Like I love that Star Wars does not talk down to an audience at all. It's hard. It's confusing. Yeah. There is no single path to anything. And it's been really awesome. Yeah. Just a whole new way to watch Star Wars.
Life lessons in Star Wars. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give a shout out here to Force of Light, as they're saying, just like you, that they love the Ewoks, just as you were saying, Bryan. I've said here before, I'm not a big Ewok fan, but that's fine.
They're so good.
I know. I think it was because Return of the Jedi used to be my favorite movie also growing up. But then when the special editions came out late 90s, and I was able to go watch them again on the big screen, then like every teenager, things changed, and then Empire Strikes Back became my favorite. And that's one of those things that no matter what happens next, that will always be my favorite. And then the Ewoks not bother me. They were annoying at that point. Again, a 16, 17-year-old kid doesn't want to see little teddy bears running around. So I think that's just in the back of my mind. But I know they're very important. I just like making fun of them. But yeah, they're important.
Well, it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah. Speaking of great character, again, Force of Light Entertainment was on their podcast about a month or so ago, dedicated just to Rey Skywalker, and why.
Awesome.
We went the whole gamut, the 3 movies, and I won't say the same as you because I'm not in that on that. I'm not there where I adopted my kids, so I know you see it different than I, but I do understand Rey Skywalker and why it's so important to her to adopt that name, at least from my point of view. And it's glad to hear it from your side also, especially with all that craziness out there of people complaining about it. And it's, again, one of those things, if you didn't like it, fine, it's not for you. Just say, I didn't see it that way, keep going. But when people start harking on it and start, no, you're wrong because you didn't see it the same way as I did, that's why we love Star Wars. We all see it from a different point of view. Whew.
Yeah, right. I love that part. I love to see, I love listening to someone who doesn't like it and hear why, and learn a different. It doesn't need to take away from my meaning. That it doesn't. It's awesome to hear those things.
Yeah. All right. So we started this conversation talking about The Mandalorian a little bit and your episodes that you are recording. Before I jump to this last question and then start with the news items, how hard is it navigating 8-9 people in a podcast? I think the most I've had here is 3 guests, and it's just making sure that everyone has enough time to talk and no one takes over, which is very easy, especially for hosts to take over. I don't do a lot of editing, if anything, on my side. I hear that you do a lot of editing. Well, how difficult is it just navigating the actual conversation and then having to try to edit 9 people?
Well, it's probably better to ask those people because they're probably, what is this guy doing? Because I like our show, we've almost decided, Tom and I kind of describe our show as like a morning show in a way where it's really conversational, and I've got my talking points, but if we don't get to them, it's all good. I'm more interested in the natural conversation that comes from something. That was really difficult with 9 people who all run their shows very differently. You know, not everyone has podcasts, but a lot of them do. But I will tell you, like, Tom and I edit as we go, because we just sit right here. I'm telling you, the intro, the first 30 seconds of our show is probably 20-30 minutes of like laughing and, oh, we could have done better, and trying to jazz ourselves up. So not having that was really interesting. We still do the end and the intro in later. But yeah, editing was a lot, and I started using Logic at that same time. So Logic is different than what I was used to. So it was like I didn't make it easy, but I've learned a lot. I mean, it's made me better. I mean, it really has made me better, I think, at all of it.
You've recorded, like you said, 3. You just did your 3rd episode today. Has it gone a little bit easier navigating those conversations?
Not this morning.
I mean,
those poor people. This morning I turned on, none of my mics worked. Nothing was working. I was in full on panic mode. Nothing ever goes wrong when it's just Tom and I, and we can like push it. Nothing. So we actually recorded everything on Zoom. So Wednesday will come out and we can find out how it went.
I'll let you know. I'll figure it out. I'll wait till if I put this out there or not. So that. All right. So what? So yeah, Mandalorian. How are you feeling for season 2? Excited? That trailer was okay. You ready to go for season 2?
I am very excited. I liked The Mandalorian when it first started. Like, I mean, it's fantastic. But I'm not sure if I was too excited for The Rise of Skywalker. Like, that excitement for what was coming for me kind of outweighed. And I was really excited. We knew Clone Wars was coming, right? I think we knew at that point.
I think it was coming. We didn't know when, but yeah, we knew it was coming.
Okay. And I am a total Clone Wars like stan. Like, it is my favorite of all Star Wars. Like, I love Clone Wars. So those two things kind of outweighed The Mandalorian at the beginning. And I really liked it, but the longer I was away from that show, the more I really, really liked it. When Chapter 5 came out, which I know is everyone's like, seems to be collectively the least popular, is my personal favorite. Like, I think there's so much to dig in there. Underneath all the surface, it's a very Dave Filoni episode. It's a very Clone Wars Rebels feeling episode. So I'm really excited. The ending intrigued me, and then at the end, I mean, I guess we can talk about spoilers. We're coming to season 2. The Darksaber changed the Darksaber changed everything. I was like, I forced Tom. Not only did I force him to do a podcast when The Mandalorian's out, I forced him to get up at 3:30 in the morning because I work really early in the mornings, so I had to watch it before I went to work. I was about to lose my mind when that Darksaber came out.
Yeah.
Yes, it's awesome looking. Like, it just looks cool. But everything that it means, the story behind it, I was like, oh my God, this show just went from here to like way up here. And I was so excited. So I'm really excited for season 2.
I watched Mandalorian with my family. It's one of the only Star Wars that we all watch together, my wife and my 2 kids. And I usually wait till late in the afternoon on Friday when we all get back from work and school and then just watch it. But the last like 3 episodes, same thing. I was waking up middle of the night, just watching it by myself. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna watch and then rewatch it with you guys and fake that I know what's going to happen. But when the Darksaber came out, I'm like, wow. And then my family's like, what? It's a black sword? No, what? The Mandalorian, Sabine, and all this. You don't know what this means. And I said, I don't understand. Is there a problem with the color of the lightsaber? No, that's it. So yeah, I understand.
That's what that show did so brilliantly. Like, they just gave you a really cool visual to get like the casual fan like Tom to go, oh, that's a rad looking lightsaber. But all of us, like, it blends those two realities really, really well.
All right, so we've been going for 40 minutes and we haven't touched the Star Wars news. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready. Let's talk Star Wars. Star Wars news. So, like I mentioned before when talking to to Bryan, Tom isn't here, unfortunately. Well, again, I'm starting to have a trend when I invite guests over. Sometimes one of the two don't show up, and I think they just flip a coin and decide, I don't know about this guy. You go first, and then we'll decide. But anyways, we're here now, and not a lot of Star Wars news, if any, really. But let's talk about it real quick. First one is D23 got delayed. We got this news from StarWars.com a few days ago, or from Disney, I should say. They put out this release saying we are excited to announce that the next D23 Expo will be held September 9th and 11th to 11th, 2022 at the Anaheim Convention Center. D23 Expo will be a celebration unlike any other as we give fans a first look at 100 years of the Walt Disney Company. I don't know why it keeps getting you out. All right. So at first it's okay, D23, that's fine, but how does this affect Star Wars? And when you start looking into it, does affect it a little bit. First off, when Star Wars Celebration was pushed to 2022, I believe, 2022, then all this D23, and I'm thinking 2023. So 2022, so now we have both. So let me go back. So Star Wars Celebration got pushed to 22. So we had D23 in 2021, where we expected and hoped that, okay, that's where we're going to start getting some Star Wars news, maybe something about the Kenobi series, Cassian Andor, the new movies that were also pushed to 2023. And now this gets pushed back to about 3 weeks after Star Wars Celebration. So my first thought or my first question to you, Bryan, do you think this now means that Celebration is going to be pushed back, or maybe they won't have that much of a presence in D23 when it happens a few weeks afterwards?
I think it's probably the latter. I don't think they'll have as much Star Wars presence. I hope it doesn't get pushed, but it really could get pushed. All the movies got pushed back, a year, right? Pretty much. So that all in itself could push Star Wars Celebration back a year or two. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'm still surprised they didn't do anything. Like when DC did their thing, it turned out really great. I'm surprised they didn't do anything. It was odd.
Yeah, very odd because everyone else did it. San Diego Comic-Con did theirs. DC Fandom, which was a huge hit. It was very long from what I've heard from people that were actually there for, 10 hours. And I don't know what New York Comic-Con is doing, probably something similar, some digital event. But I was expecting Star Wars to do something and then nothing. So getting it pushed back 2 years, because maybe 1 year we expected, because again, D23 was going to happen next year, but now 2022 seems like a long way away. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't get pushed again. And it's like you said, there won't be a lot of Star Wars news in D23, a lot of events, and they do everything Star Wars Celebration, because I think a lot of us fans will, I don't want to say we'll be angry. We will, but I don't know how it's going to hit us emotionally. We have to wait 3 years for official news, because right now, the way Star Wars news are officially announced is kind of weird. Just with a tweet or something out there, it's not that, I don't know, they don't make it an event. I mean, Marvel does it when they do their slate. I'm sure they can do something similar. And with all the leaks out there, that I think that's when Star Wars starts getting a little bit behind the ball, when they want to keep everything so secret that then things start slipping, and then it messes everything up. You don't need to reveal all your secrets, but at least give us something to then appease all those leakers out there, and they are not looking at everything. So hopefully it doesn't mean anything too bad for Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm not deep in the Marvel stuff. I don't know if their fandom is as picky as ours is. I don't know another word to say off the top of my head, but it doesn't seem to have all the stuff that we do.
No, I don't. I mean, I follow some Marvel stuff, not as much as Star Wars, obviously, but I don't see people complaining or going nuts the way that we do sometimes. So, anyway, all right, I just wanted to mention something. And then like I said, Mandalorian's coming out. We got the trailer a few weeks ago and one poster, and then about 2 or 3 days ago, we got a new official poster which is this little one here with Mandalorian Season 2 coming out in a couple of weeks, October 30th. Great poster, but like I said before, come on, Mando, that's not how you carry your child. I said it since I think Entertainment Tonight Weekly had the first run of the stills, the promotional
Yep.
pictures, and they had him in the same speeder, kind of just hanging there with a baby in the back. And this is not safe. And now he's actually riding the speeder with Baby Yoda in the back. As a parent, Brian, how do you feel about Din Djarin keeping the child in that little backpack, no helmet, no safety belt, no child latch lock or anything?
He needs to get over his trauma with droids. Go find IG-11 and or IG-88. Let's find IG-88. Find his scraps wherever he is, and let's have another nursing droid come, because at least IG-11 knew how to carry that baby.
Yeah. And
Terrible. Or he needs to pick up what's her name, Pelly from episode 5. Just tag her along. Yeah, bring her everywhere you go.
Bring a pit droid and put it back there, just holding on. All right, so it is a great poster, very in tune with the first one, or not the Mandalorian and that blue hue and the smoke in the back after the trailer. So you get that same aesthetic. Again, great poster, not great parenting, but that's just
terrible parenting. Terrible.
We'll be honest. Oh, look who joined us. The man himself, or the Kawakian monkey list ourselves, Salacious Rum. Good evening, Radio Rebellion chat room and Star Wars fans. Salacious Rum here. Thank you. We're going to be talking about you in a few minutes when we go into Jabba's Palace. And you know what? I think we're done talking about Star Wars news and all this stuff. I know why you guys are here, why Bryan is here, and it is to talk about Jabba's Palace. So I don't know when it was, maybe a month or so ago. I think it was you or I think you tweeted out something about great Star Wars characters that are kind of stationary. And you mentioned Max Rebo, or someone did. And maybe someone did, and then you bring up Max Rebo. And a lot of people started bringing their characters. And I said, this is a good topic. Because here in Radio Rebellion, we like having fun and talking about weird things in Star Wars. We talk about all the weird creatures, best and worst, or favorite alien creatures out there. So I reached out to you and said, let's talk about this. And let's talk about Jabba's Palace. There's so much inside Jabba's Palace that we can talk about. So let's go ahead and start. And Salacious, if you're out there, let us know your feelings about how Jabba treated you, because I don't think he was a very good host. But I should take this away. So, all right. So
you gave him some pillows.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. And then ended up in a blew up. Anyway, so let's start right there. You mentioned that Return of the Jedi is your favorite movie. What's your first or your initial thoughts when you think about Jabba the Hutt and this great scene or this great act in that movie?
I mean, sadly, I think of Max Rebo. It's the first place I go. It's completely not important, obviously. I love that character. It's the first movie I remember seeing in the movie theater, and I have this still from, if you can see it, from 1983 that I got at a grocery store, probably after we saw the trailer or something, but I knew it was coming. And there's a picture of Max Rebo in there, and ever since that, I loved it. I remember buying the action figure. He was hard to find, but I was traumatized when he died, which, thank God. I don't know if it's canon anymore, but he did jump out, which we learned in 1997, I think it was, when Tales from Jabba's Palace came out.
Okay.
Yeah, I love him. Love him.
So speaking of being traumatized, you're going to traumatize me talking about this, because I'm same as you. The first Star Wars movie that I saw in the movie theaters was Return of the Jedi. And I've said here before that my first Star Wars memory is crying at 3 years old when Jabba the Hutt comes in on the scene. And it's probably him licking his lip with Leia, or just with everything when he grabs Leia after she unfreezes hand. And I just cried. And for some reason, instead of being no, Star Wars is the worst thing ever, It's the greatest thing ever. But my first Star Wars memory is crying because of Jabba the Hutt. And you're bringing all these memories back, but that's fine. I'll power through. One funny thing, I tweeted out yesterday a picture of my Star Wars 365-day calendar, which corresponded to this the same
Yeah.
one I have here, more or less, with the Jabba's Palace. And then down here, you pointed out with words in the little corner, which I totally missed. But then it brought me right back to my childhood, watching Return of the Jedi, always trying to find them. Every time that scene came out,
Yeah.
I was like, Rock Frog is going to eat something I will never see. I always see it at the end. It brought me right back then I know he's there, but I haven't seen him. And then I had to pick up, oh, yeah, he's in that little corner back there. So that brought me back to my childhood. So I'll suffer the trauma of Jabba just for reminding me of my childhood. So thank you, Bryan.
It was not easy on a VHS tape either. Oh.
I know. So now that you mentioned VHS, you mentioned also when we were talking about doing this episode that the laser disc changed the way you saw it. I don't remember if I saw on laser disc, but what about it changed the way you saw it? Just the scope of it?
Yeah, so we always had full screen, you know. I didn't know there was letterbox versions. I had no idea.
Sure.
And my buddy had a Laserdisc player, and we got them. I think we bought them together. I think it was the only way we could afford that set back then. But he played it, and I just realized how much bigger that scene is. There's so many more aliens. I don't like a Man-O-Man. I think a Man-O-Man was the last toy that I ever bought at the store. But I never saw him in the movie that I could remember until the Laserdisc came out. I'm like, oh, there he is. Still 40 something years later, I still see things that I don't know if I've ever seen them, or you just forget you see them. But that scene is so dense, and as it's cleaned up or new versions come out, you know, like you see more and more into it that you just couldn't see on VHS. And that's how
watching it last night on Disney Plus. Saw a lot of different aliens I haven't seen before, just forgotten. And there's a lot of detail in that scene, but I love that it's first a story different from anything we've seen in Star Wars. The separate mission does have anything to do with the main plot, but it has our main characters that we've grown to love going to rescue Han Solo. And then it starts with what I think is one of C-3PO's best performances in the original trilogy. He's on point in this scene, complaining as always with R2, but then when they get to the palace and he just tick, tick, oh, no one here, let's go. It's a little tab that no one can hear. It's like, let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
And then let's go on with 3PO a little bit. He has that great scene. Then when he tells R2 to play the message, and we'll go into a little bit longer. Oh, I present you these two droids. And he's like, no, play the right message. That's not it. And then he's like, oh, I can't bear to watch when Jabba's licking himself. And when Luke comes in, oh, finally, Master Skywalker is here to rescue me. He doesn't care. It's all C-3PO's world, and it's on point in that scene.
Yeah, I love C-3PO. I love him. One of my favorite characters. It probably is because, this is my favorite scene in Star Wars, anyways. That's probably why. Because you're right, he's so good. He steals the show every single time he's on camera. He steals it every time.
Yeah. So, like I said, Jabba the Hutt traumatized me a little bit growing up. But what are your thoughts on Jabba in general in this scene? What he means to Star Wars? Because he could have been a one-time alien that no one really cares about. But I think since 83, when this came out, Jabba the Hutt has always been at the forefront of Star Wars marketing, and everyone knows about. Like our friend Cam Ray posted when we were talking about this earlier today. What is about Jabba the Hutt that everyone loves him? There's no reason to love Jabba, but everyone does.
I think it's just fascinating at the amount of arrogance he must have. You know, we've learned more about the Hutts as it's gone on, but here he is. At the time, he wasn't in A New Hope when it first came out, at least for me. So I still see stuff through those lenses, I think, for the most part. But here he is, just this big fat thing that can't move, but he's so arrogant that everyone is afraid of him. Like any one number of those people could have taken him out at any point in time, but they're just all so afraid of him at just his sheer arrogance and confidence in himself. I just find, like, I think, granted, not a jerk, but I think there's something that all of us wish we could be, that confident in ourselves that we could just walk into a room and command it like that. That makes him so good.
They just mean they're pushing people around. Get out of here. He's Jedi mind trick. Get out of here. But like Salacious Rum said on the chat, I think because we've heard in Star Wars alien creatures speaking in an alien language, but not for 30 minutes. This scene is almost 40 minutes long, and a lot of it between Jabba, before Tuna is that Huttese, which sounds great. It's sometimes there's no dialogue underneath, there's no captions. They see C-3PO basically saying, translating, but it works. Somehow it works. And his voice is great. The Huttese language, whoever created that form of speak, did a great job. Him, Big Fortuna and everything. So it does work. We all love Jabba for some reason. I used to have that shirt that said original gangster. It was Jabba with Princess Leia. There was not Star Wars, there was a sci-fi convention in Puerto Rico back in like 96, 97, 98, more or less, 1999. And Peter Mayhew was there. The only time I've actually met a Star Wars actor, got my picture with him. I got that signed picture with Chewbacca. I should post that here somewhere easy. Yeah. And I had my Oriole Gangstar shirt, and he did say it was a great shirt. So yes, Jabba the Hutt. I love that giant slug. Oh.
They have never nailed that voice as well again either.
Mm-hmm. Ever. So let's go right into. So no, before we go into the plan to rescue Han Solo, that we'll get into it in a minute. But you were mentioning when you saw the laser disc, and then every new edition, you get to learn more all the great aliens that we have there. Like we said, we have Bib Fortuna there, which I think is the first time we see a Twi'lek character on screen, and now they become so popular. Hera Syndulla, we all know and love, and in the Mandalorian we have a few. The first time we saw Twi'leks, which to me is a great design, especially that rough that we see in Bib Fortuna, and then the way he kind of acts when he's trying to walk away. Salacious Crown, those Kawakian monkeys are just and just jumping everywhere. Yeah, that's my big acting here. We have Mandalorian guards, Niktos, Quarrens. This is taking the Cantina scene from A New Hope and blowing it up.
Yep.
So that's something I take about this scene. It's just the scope of it with all the great aliens. We always talk about get away from CGI, go back to practical effects, and this is a great way to kind of show it. Anything else from that scene that pops up with all those aliens that you start seeing on screen?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I think that's what was missing that's what's been missing in the Disney era, I think, is that scene. Like you said, it's 40 minutes, and a good chunk of that dialogue is not in English. There's no basic. And we didn't need it back then. And I miss the need. C-3PO didn't have anything to do in the sequel trilogy, but you could have very easily had him in the sequel trilogy interpreting those things. I mean, speaking of this scene, I know it's in the notes to bring up, but like Solo we have Lady Proxima, who's this amazing looking character. Like, she is so awesome. But then that voice comes out and it's not needed. Like, it was, it underserved that scene a lot. But yeah, no, I just love how you're just transported somewhere new in that. I mean, everything in that. You see the Bomar monk walking away in the background, like, you know, it made it feel very lived in, because there was no like zoom in close-ups to anything. You know, they were just kind of set pieces. It was awesome.
Yeah. Going back to Solo real quick, which I love that movie. It's my comfort Star Wars movie. The biggest critique it gets, it's just a fun movie. Yes, exactly. That's what it's supposed to be. But that's all right. Yeah,
Oh no, it's my favorite. No, it's my favorite. It is my favorite
Oh,
of the new ones, but it
okay.
is so much more than just a
I know.
fun
If
movie.
you go deep into it, there's a lot of things behind it with Kira always one step ahead and her relationship. She's never free, even though she thinks and acts like it. It's another show. I'll get you back when I do
Yep.
my solo. There's so much behind it. Surface
Yep.
level is a very fun movie. If you go deep, then there's a lot
Yep.
you can take from it. But going back to Lady Proxima, that's the problem, and I agree with you 100%. At that same scene, you have another character, I forgot his name, her enforcer, speaking a different
Oh
language.
yeah.
You can just switch.
MODOK. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have Lady Proxima speaking whatever weird language they speak on Corellia, and then he already speaks it, so the two of them could have gone at it. We know Han understood him, so no reason to then have her speak English.
Yeah.
Anyway, now I threw myself off. But
Sorry.
yeah, no, that's fine. If I anytime I get to talk solo, it's good. So let's Salacious Rum says that he's gonna appear in season 2 of The Mandalorian. Big Fortuna is coming back to overthrow
Yeah.
Jabba. Maybe he's the one wearing Boba Fett's armor. So we'll see when it comes out. That's who Timothy Oliphant is playing. So let's go into this plan to rescue Han Solo because you can either enjoy it as it is, which is what I like doing, and then you can go 20 different ways and say how that plan doesn't make sense. But the first thing when we have R2 and C-3PO going to the palace, C-3PO basically says, "Oh, Captain Calrissian and Chewbacca have been gone for a long time, and we haven't heard from them." Then we get over there and play the message, and then Luke Skywalker comes out. "I present to you these two droids as a token of my gratitude, and give me Solo." And 3PO, as we say, "No, you're wrong. Play the right." And then we know what happens. They get taken away, and we find out also that droids feel pain because we have that torture droid burning the feet of everything that you can do to a droid. They're burning the feet of that other droid. They tell R2, "Okay, we'll use you on the sailboat, and 3PO, you're gonna go work for the master." So first off, how do you feel about droids feeling pain? Do we need to be more concerned about this?
Yeah. I think. I mean, I love the way droids are used in Star Wars. I think there's a lot there. I think George Lucas is an absolute genius, and there's nothing in there accidentally. L3 certainly changed the game for droids in a very literal sense in the movie, but also brought to light, I think, a conversation that it's been had before. You know, they touch it a little bit in Clone Wars. Actually, I think they go into a little bit more of that kind of stuff. I love that in the prequels, Obi-Wan could care less about R2D2, and Anakin's no, treats him more like his best, a pal. Yeah, I think I love the droids. I think they're incredibly important and what they represent in Star Wars, actually, for sure.
When on the episode I had with the Galactic podcast, one of the questions we got was, who does droids or androids better, Star Wars or Star Trek? And it's very different because in Star Trek, even though I don't follow it, I used to watch it, but not for 20 years now, androids, Data, and all those, they're part of the crew, and they're people basically that where they're treated most of the time. In Star Wars, like you said, they belong to someone. There's always saying, who do you belong to? Oh, Master Skywalker. Obi-Wan saying, "I've never owned a droid." So they are always owned by someone, and that's when L3 comes out and said, "No, I'm not having this restraining bolts of this doing a mass rebellion," or whatever she says when they're running out. And it's something that doesn't really get touched upon too much in Star Wars. We all love droids, but we don't see that other sides that what are we do? What we're doing with them is that right? We love them, but we treat them as, I don't want to say slaves, but we treat them poorly, to say the least.
Yep.
All right, that's
think about the poor battle droids with that. We talk about the clones and how terrible it was for them, but what about the battle droids? We have Roger in Freemaker Adventures. He's got some tales to tell.
Yeah. All right. So, and then we have this bounty hunter come in. Nobody knows who he is. He does get referred as a he. I want 50,000 for Solo. I mean, for Chewbacca, because I bring you the mighty Chewbacca. And then we have that scene, thermal detonator. Oh, this might kind of scum, talk you down to 35. Before we go
Yep.
into, and in Solo, we saw him doing a similar thing. And I don't know if it was a comic or just people on Twitter. Someone said, yeah, that's Han Solo told Leia, and that's why she knew to do this with Jabba. Do you believe this, or you still keep it as separate incidents?
I mean, first I have to say that the Bausch design is my favorite costume in all of Star Wars. It is so rad. Everything about it's awesome. The voice, everything about it's
Right.
awesome. I remember when that came out, and I'm not sure upon first viewing if I kind of giggled, I chuckled at the idea of it, because I feel like it's a very Han thing to do, so that it fit there. But I don't think I went out of it thinking about what it meant for that scene in Return of the Jedi. I am bummed that I think it can be seen as taking something away from Leia, who is a very pragmatic character anyways. But the thing that I look at now is Han picked up a stone. It wasn't going to detonate. We all know that thing was really dead because she would have taken everybody out if she needed to. Like, that's what she would have done. And so, like, I think, it does, with that way, I think it makes her fantastic too. I think it was needed. Probably not. But it doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't take away either. I think if anything, I can see where people say it takes away from Leia, but I actually like that it adds to her, if that,
Yeah, I did.
He's going to go there.
Yeah, I had that throwback to Return of the Jedi when I saw that in Solo, but I never thought about, then Han went and told her, and she said, I'm going to see again, so let me try this with an actual thermal detonator. That even if Han did tell her she was going to go through with it, not like he was, just breaking a window. But I still see them as separate incidents. She just, I'm trying to pass as a bounty hunter. I need to do this, and if I can have it, no one will. That's kind of sense.
Yep.
But then we go, all right, here's your money. Then, and again, yes, the design is great. I think that voice is my favorite. The modulation of the voice is great. Brings him down, unfreezes him, and then Han goes, who are you? Removes the helmet. Someone who loves you. And then Leia. It's because we know the last time they spoke, reverse.
Yep.
One of the greatest scenes ever. And I knew it was coming, wasn't it? Yes, so the delivery of both of them, the way Carrie Fisher removes her helmet and just someone who loves you, which I think is the first, not the first time it did happen in Empire, but one of the first times that she proclaims her love for Han, and the way he responds back, like, it's not, I'm being rescued, but the person rescuing me is Leia, and just his emotions, the way he says it really gets to me. When you saw that, do you remember seeing that for the first time and kind of being blown that it was Leia's Bosch?
I don't know if I remember. Like,
Me neither.
I feel like I just kind of always knew. It doesn't take it away at all for me, because I just think it's such a. I remember reading in the 90s when Shadows of the Empire came out, and I liked that. Hearing how she got the costume was cool. Back then, I think it's been retconned now. It's something different, but
no,
but that was cool. I love that scene. I think I love, to go back to Solo. I love that. Like, I love Alden Ehrenreich's performance in that movie because I know Han Solo isn't necessarily. That portrayal of him in Return of the Jedi is not everyone's favorite portrayal of Han, but I think I like that Solo really bookends his arc, because we see him. I think that's who Han is, and we see that version of Han in Return of the Jedi. And one of my favorite things that gets me every time is Chewie and Han Solo, like when he gets thrown in the prison after that, and he's like, I'm all right, pal, I'm all right, and they're just holding each other, and they're there for each other, and you had never, until that moment, never saw Han Solo vulnerable. And the one person he's vulnerable in front of is Chewbacca, and it still holds so much for me. It's so good, and I love that Solo chose to follow that version of Han Solo, because he's never been the same. I think he thought he was going to die, and I think when he came out of that carbonite as the person that he was done running from who he was at that moment. It's a beautiful scene. It's
a great point. I think when people complain about Alden's performance, they compare it to Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope, and then not to the person that Han Solo is at the end of all this. And I think you're correct. And watching it yesterday, because you did mention that Han Solo and Chewbacca scene in the movie. Then when I was watching it yesterday, that scene came on, and that's right. And when they first met was in a prison cell, roles a little bit reversed, but Han's still being thrown into a cell where Chewbacca is still there. And that's where they have that first connection. And like you said, the person he's always being honest with, I guess, and vulnerable with is this giant furry oaf of Chewie. And then Chewie just joking, he said, no, you're fine. You're good.
Good.
It is great. And it gets looked over a lot, unfortunately.
Yep. And I think it's a very important.
Yeah. So that plan doesn't work. So let's go to our third plan. And here we go. Dark Robe opens up the palace doors. 2 Gamorrean guards come running. Get out of here, force choke. Jedi Master or Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker comes in, choking people, using Jedi mind trick on Bib Fortuna, and then trying to use the Jedi mind trick on Jabba. Give me Solo, you're gonna die. This is your last chance. We were talking a little bit before about how Luke Skywalker has always been this conflicted, aggressive person. You wanted to talk a little bit about it. So run me through your thoughts on Luke, on this scene, and just your feelings in general.
So I think I mentioned it. I can't remember if it was here in the podcast, but we went and saw Empire Strikes Back at the movie theater just a couple nights ago. It's playing at one of the local places. And so it's top of mind. And something that now I see very differently is when Luke confronts Darth Vader for the first time there in Bespin, which is iconic and wonderful. Luke Skywalker makes the first move, and I'm not sure if it ever played this way to me before, and now it makes me think of the Luke Skywalker that we saw in The Last Jedi. And then I went and then last night I rewatched this part of Return of the Jedi, and he comes in, dark cloaked with a silhouette that looks just like Darth Vader, which we're meant to think, oh God, is he bad? And he starts killing all these people. Like, Luke has never been this passive person, ever. I've had a much different relationship with Luke Skywalker as I've gotten older, because he's not the strongest character. He's probably one of the weakest of them all, actually, maybe until that very final moment. But I also think he's on his knees about to die, and there's nothing left to do but to ask for help. And so I see that, and I think back to what Yoda says, once you go down the dark path, forever will dominate your destiny. And he went down the dark path when he chopped off his head in the cave, and it's been chasing him ever since. And I think that's something that I wish was a little more explicit, maybe, in The Last Jedi, of the dark side. Rey, you can't go down there. I did it once, and it has been haunting me for the last 30 years. I think something would have been really great, but I think I saw a very strong parallel between Luke and Cranky Luke that I had seen the same way, but it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people complain about Last Jedi Luke, and he will never do that, what he did to Ben Solo, never. Just go back. People like to think of him still as the 17-year-old whiny kid on Tatooine, wanting power converters, where no. He went to the dark side in the cave. He basically almost went to the dark side when Vader threatens Leia, and he goes full on, like you said, like the first move in Empire. He's beating down on Vader until he realizes, no, I'm gonna turn just like him. But he went full on for 20 seconds, just whacking at him.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the way he reacts to Solo for a nanosecond, knowing everyone's gonna die. Oh no, I gotta stop this. No, I went through this already. Let me pull back. Unfortunately, Ben, I guess, is a light sleeper and woke up with the glow of the green saber and messed the galaxy up. Could just keep sleeping for 10 more seconds. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But no, he had to wake up. But yes, Luke Skywalker in this scene, and I don't know if it is intentional to show us that he's willing to go to the dark side. I don't know if he really killed those Gamorrean guards, so we don't see them again. He tells
Yep.
Jabba a few times, if you don't do this, you're gonna die. So this is your last chance. Release us or die, as he says in the sword. Like, it's not the way of the Jedi,
Yep.
but Luke does go that way. So yes, it is a little cranky from that way all the way to Last Jedi.
And let's not forget that little 17-year-old was shooting womp rats just because he could. He didn't have a lot of care for life.
Vegas Canyon, wherever he was.
Exactly.
Right now, if a kid tells you I'm killing things, no, call the services.
No doubt.
But he could do that. He could destroy the Death Star. No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look into this. I think you make a good point.
Yep.
I see a damaged kid and oh man, Luke Skywalker, not the hero we thought.
No.
All right. So, anyways, and then we get, and I guess was it before this? I guess we get the first jam inside Jabba's palace with your friend Max Rebo. And I was gonna talk about it a little bit more, but we'll leave it for the end for one of our questions, the new edition. But here we go. Max Rebo, the band starts playing, everyone's dancing. We get the Twilight dancers before she's thrown Ula. No, what's her name? Ula.
Yep. Ula.
Yes, I missed that on a trivia that I was doing. And
Oh.
and
Ula and Yarna. Yarna is the other dancer.
All right. Oh, you said at the beginning you don't remember the places or anything. Okay. All right. But yeah, Max Rebo, walk us through that music and that scene and then falling down into the Rancor pit.
Oh, it's so good. Like I just love that we had this like bright blue elephant jamming out, and that music is so cool, especially the music that you hear on the sail barge, like after Lofty Neck. I don't know the name of the song, but like that is a groove. He just looks so happy to be there. I think Cy Snoodles looked awesome. Like she looked so cool back then. I love what they did with her in the Clone Wars. I love that episode. I was like, oh, she's bad. She's awesome. That Rancor scene, though, is so funny because my youngest, Michael, who is the other super fan in the house, of course, to me, I just saw a big monster eating things and getting killed, and it's like awesome, right? We're like, oh my god, this is rad. And he's like, the monster didn't do anything. He just wanted to get out of the jail. Why did Luke kill him? I was like, oh, I think you're right.
He kills creatures just because.
Yeah, the Rancor had no interest in doing that. He was a prisoner. That scene is good. I can't believe how well it holds up to this day. Like, it just looks impressive. It's so awesome. It's so big. Like I said, I don't know. I love Return of the Jedi. It is like, it's everything that is Star Wars in 2.5 hours. Like, we get all of it.
Yeah. Like I said at the beginning, one of my favorite episodes that we've done is just talking about all the weird creatures in Star Wars. And that palace scene has a lot of them. Starting with Jabba, the Rancor, I can't believe, the pit at the end. But yeah, the Rancor, first when I see Max Rebo, yes, it's big blue elephant. He looks like clay to me, that he was made out of clay, and then he's the only one, like you said, they're just playing that piano, and then he makes it to the sailboat, one of the few other people that makes it out of there. And then the Rancor scene is great. Watching it last night, it holds up perfectly. That creature design is great when you think about horror things in Star Wars. It's coming out from underneath that cave, and it's a great scene. I always feel it kind of weird the way that Luke kind of throws that skull to close the gate on him. But again,
it's a force throw. It's a force throw.
It's a force. We'll get it. I think force throw. He needs a better extension of his arm, I think. And he made it there. But it's one of those things that, again, a creature in Star Wars that was there for maybe 2 minutes at the most becomes iconic. Everyone knows what
Yep.
a Rancor is. Everyone, when any Star Wars game that you're playing and there's a Rancor, you know you're in trouble. Great scene, great design. And then we move to the Sailboat, which continues the same story and all the great creatures. We get the music again. Same thing. When I think of Max Rebo and the music playing, I think about the Sailboat more than Jabba's Palace.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it doesn't get the recognition. It doesn't have a name,
Yeah.
like you said. But it's a great
Yeah.
scene. We get more of Max Rebo there. And then the plan kind of unfolds with Luke giving Jabba the Hutt a final chance to let them go. He gives the little nod to R2 holding the saber all this time. And then all that happens. My boy Boba Fett gets thrown into the Sarlacc pit. I'll get my... Anyway, so yeah, let's finish up this discussion about Jabba's Palace and this whole scene with the sailboats. Han is starting to get his vision back. We get his reunion with Lando. And no, I thought you were blind. And all that. So... do you like this scene in the sailboat? Do you prefer the palace?
Oh, I don't know. I probably prefer the palace, but this scene's. I mean, it's pretty iconic.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. The one thing that cracks me up for George's famous line of "faster, more intense." It sure does take a long time for that lightsaber to fall in Luke's hand. You're just like, oh, what's going on? But it's awesome. I never. That was just the coolest thing as a kid when R2-D2 pops that thing out, and I think I like that Luke is the last resort. I think. There's that scene it's a deleted scene, but he's communing with Darth Vader at the beginning when he's like tooling his little lightsaber before it goes in. Like we get that line later in the movie when he's like, "I'm endangering the mission." So like clearly, Luke and Vader have been communicating over this 6 months or a year or something like that. I think between the movies, right? Somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, I think it's about a year, maybe a little bit less. I think.
Okay. So he can't go because if he goes, Vader's going to show up again, and he lost Han to Vader once. He doesn't want to lose him again. So it's kind of like a last resort that Luke has to show up. And I don't know. I like that. I don't know. I like it. I like it a lot. I think the flip is still cool.
Yeah, that swimming pool trampoline that he had there, perfect bounce to go back up. But before we get to that, we have C-3PO running into R2, serving drinks. And again, we get Triple. What are you doing here? Serving drinks. Great. And of course, we can't finish without talking about Leia being the badass that she is. I guess I'll be the one to choke this lug. And then everyone loving Leia, people for her costume, but more for the badass that she travels then to canon. With people calling her the Hutt Slayer in Bloodline.
Yeah.
There, it's the badass that she was for us, then transfers to the canon. Great scene again. Everyone knows if you need someone to kill a Hutt, you get Leia on board. So
man,
yeah,
Bloodline did an amazing job with all of that stuff. We see all those Nicktoons in this thing, anyways. And now to hear how much they all hated him so much, and this respect that she's garnered for herself out of doing that, like it's a really empowering scene, actually. I mean, that's who Leia is. I think she could have gotten out of that anytime she wanted to, but she knew what the plan was and she had to lay low. Like that's what Leia is. Leia will always think of somebody else before herself, and it's really interesting.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
The reason she lets go in Return on Rise of Skywalker is just a final resort to get to Ben, and she does. So yeah, she was always thinking about someone else: the rebellion, resistance, Han,
Yep,
and then Ben Solo at the end. Whew. So I think we've covered most of it. Anything else about this great scene you want to touch on before we move into some fan questions?
No, Max Rebo for life.
Max Rebo. man. Again, it's a
He's so
blue
good.
elephant behind a keyboard. Everyone knows Max Rebo. Again, I don't know. There's something about those movies that test of time. They'll always be there, and there's something that you always love about them. But those small things, those are the small things that stay with us.
You know, specifically, you asked earlier what I think of when I think of Return of the Jedi, and there's this hand move that Max Rebo does after the thermal detonator. He's got his little hand, and he does like the coolest little twirly do with his hand to play the keyboard. That I think of that way more often than I should.
I think
it's so cool.
Big Fortuna when Luke is telling him, "I'll take you to Jabba. I'll take you to Jabba now." And he goes, whatever, and then I don't know, weird movement. So see, we're on the same way here.
Yeah.
But, all right, so we got a few minutes. I try to keep this close to an hour and a half because if not, I keep going for 2 hours, and then people at my household don't like that too much. So let's go into one of my favorite parts here on the show, and it's Ask the Rebellion, when we hear about from you guys, I should say, and a few questions. I have in trouble in there we go. Ask the Rebellion. Little graphic, which I just removed. There we go. Ask the Rebellion. So
love it.
As always, we throw it out there to our fans. If they have any questions for us, it can be about the topic we're talking about this week or just anything in general. Whatever. So we had 2 quick questions today, and we didn't touch too much on the special editions because our friend, and I didn't come up with his Twitter handle, he did, Ben Howard McDonald, at Ben is the worst. Hopefully, Ben, don't, come on.
Hi, Ben.
Well, but thanks for joining the rebellion and sending this question to Bryan and myself. And he asked, Laptinek versus Jedi Rocks, which is the biggest banger? Has to be Laptinek, right? Or no?
Oh, God, no. Jedi. Oh, God, no.
Jedi Rocks.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I know.
I don't understand why they had to get rid of it. I'm here for the added people. I love little Rappertoony. I love the turtle frog guy. I love the drummers. I love Boba Fett's flirtation. I'm here for all of that stuff. I love it. Why couldn't you just keep Laptinek there? Interject a rap. Come on, we're in pop culture. We see, great, beautiful ballads, and then they do a remix with a rap feature in the middle. They could have done something.
Yeah. So I haven't heard Laptinek in, I don't know, since Jedi Rock took over 20 years ago or whenever it was.
Yep.
And this morning, let me find it because I'm going to be talking about it. Because I always go, all the added CGI, no one needs to see the throat of that guy with a slower coming. It adds nothing. It's just a gag that be there. And then you listen to Laptinek, come on, it still works. Like you said, you can add a few dancing aliens. You can update the CGI of those characters if you want. There's no need to change the song and add this extra singer. Laptinek all the way, or just a Sailboat, give it a name, and we'll go with that one. All right, so our final question of the week comes from our friends in a Galaxy Pod, Jacob and Eli from Star Wars in a Galaxy podcast, and they write, what do you think happened to Boss after Return of the Jedi? So I haven't thought about this because, I don't know, but Bosk. So let's say he survived. I don't know where he is in the Return of the Jedi. Let's say he survived the Sailboat exploding, and I don't know if there's anything canon about Bosk after Return of the Jedi. So if anyone out there knows, just correct us and let us know. But I think he just went his way. He went back to his planet over there. Just let me find another gangster that needs something. I'm a bounty hunter. I'll just get whoever needs something. I'll just go that way. And he just found his way out of Tatooine somehow. Or maybe he's the one that helped Boba Fett out of the Sarlacc pit, and they're both going after the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda in season 2. So that's my answer. He helped Boba Fett out of that Sarlacc pit. What do you think happened to Bosk?
I think he probably got out because Trandoshans are pretty rad. I love me some Bosk. He probably went to the cantina there in Mos Eisley. Ran into Grief Karga. They were about to have a little transaction going on, and then he overheard, fast forward a few days later, that these once cute teddy bears defeated an entire army of stormtroopers and won a war, and he rounded up his buddies, and they went and did some hunting for some sport on the Forest Moon of Endor.
Ooh,
And now he is hanging on Works on Wicket's wall somewhere. His head. I think Wicket took him out.
Got him. We
Yes.
celebrated at the end of Skywalker. I do like that. I did mention don't have the best relationship with Ewok, so maybe he got some Trandoshans, went to the Forest Moon of Endor, started hunting, and unfortunately he ran into Ewok and Sheep Chirpa, and they. Well, thanks to Ben Howard and for the guys over at In a Galaxy Pod for their questions. And if you guys listen to this, want to send your questions at any point during the week, just tweet at me with the hashtag #AskTheRebellion, and we'll do our best to answer your questions here. So yes, Bryan, that brings an end to our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, where can our listeners find you guys?
We are on Twitter and Instagram at Serving Pink Milk. You can visit our website at servingpinkmilk.com. We are pretty much everywhere your pods are. We're on YouTube. And on Fridays, join the Pink Milk Friday Night Dance Party because I put together mixtapes every Friday night and I put them out there on Spotify and Apple Music. And we can all dance together.
I gotta go check. I know when you tweet them out. I haven't checked them yet, but I'll do one. Again, thanks for being here. We threw this out pretty quickly. Thanks for being again. Yeah. Next time, tell Tom to show up.
Yes.
If you can. I do appreciate it, especially being up for I don't know how long now, almost 24 hours. Thanks for being here. If this is you with no sleep, don't sleep when you come next time. Yeah, again, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Always. You can find us obviously here on YouTube. If you search for Radio Rebellion Podcast, everywhere podcasts are found, Apple, except Amazon Podcasts. I still keep telling them they're not putting me there, but Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, all those places, Radio Rebellion Podcast, and on Twitter and Instagram at Radio Rebel Pod. Check out Serving Pink Milk and Pink Milk, all their great stuff over there. Those Mandalorian roundtables are great. Like I said, I just listened to the first one earlier this week. I'll check out the other ones. Just a different perspective on Star Wars that I think in this day and age, we all need to see things from everyone's point of view. So thank you, and Tom and everyone over there for that. And as always, stay safe, be safe, and may the Force be with you.